There are storms that do more than tear through the sky. They open the unseen doors of perception. In 1923, in a small Bulgarian village near Mount Kozu, a violent sandstorm swallowed a 12-year-old girl named Vangelia Pandeva. When she was found, her eyes were sealed with dust, blind forever. But within that darkness, another light began to burn, not in her sight, but in her soul. From that day forward, she began to see what others could not. They called her Baba Vanga, the blind seer of the Balkans. The world has known prophets before: Nostradamus, Edgar Cayce, even madmen who mistook their delusion for destiny. But Baba Vanga was different. She spoke softly, in broken fragments, as if describing dreams that did not belong to her alone. "I see iron birds striking the towers. I see the sea devouring the living," she once whispered. Decades later, those words would echo through history. 9/11, the 2004 tsunami, the rise of extremism. And yet, among the hundreds of prophecies attributed to her, there was one that people tried to ignore, a vision of a man from the world of gold and commerce, a man who would defy the order of power, be exiled and return, and shake the great eagle from within. Long before his name filled every headline, she had already seen him: Donald Trump. When Baba Vanga died in 1996, Trump was still a real estate tycoon known for skyscrapers and casinos. Politics was far from his kingdom. But the prophecy spoke clearly. A man of gold will rise, not from politics, but from wealth. He will win against every prediction, and the world will divide because of him. Coincidence, or something more? Because the same woman who foresaw towers burning also spoke of a year, a precise year, 2026. She called it the year when the eagle turns its wings inward, a poetic warning that America would one day consume itself. Her words were not threats, they were echoes, carried from some unreachable place. Yet in every syllable there was a chill, as if she was speaking across time directly to us. Look back. In 2016, against all odds, Donald Trump won an election no one believed he could. He fought the media, the establishment, even his own party. He was impeached, investigated, indicted, and still he stands, both adored and despised, the center of a storm that refuses to fade. Baba Vanga's notes describe that very man. He will face endless trials. He will be accused from every side, yet none will destroy him. And then came the line that now haunts those who study her words. After a time of exile, he shall return, and his return will change the world. She never named him, but her imagery leaves little room for doubt. Trump, the man of gold, has become both symbol and catalyst. In her eyes, he was not a savior, not a villain, but a mirror. He will make the empire see its reflection, she said, and what it sees will terrify it. If you're listening, pause for a moment. The prophets of the past never spoke for their own time. They spoke for generations who would unknowingly walk straight into the visions they described. Baba Vanga saw a divided America, brother against brother, truth turned into a currency rarer than gold. She saw protests in the streets, cities on edge, leaders accused of betrayal, systems trembling under their own corruption. And still, at the center of it all, the golden man, standing, isolated, yet unbroken. She saw him tried again and again, the records say, not for guilt, but as the reflection of the guilt of others. Those words sound poetic until you look around today. The hearings, the indictments, the relentless scrutiny. It all begins to feel less like politics, and more like prophecy. She never mentioned an exact event, only that 10 years after the first great upheaval, the circle will begin anew. From 2016 to 2026, 10 years, the number that returns again and again in her writings. So we ask, coincidence or design? In myth, there are figures born not to save the world, but to test it, to hold up a mirror before the powerful and make them see what they have become. Perhaps to Baba Vanga, Donald Trump was not a messiah or an antichrist, but the instrument through which America would confront its shadow. And what she saw reflected back, the great eagle melting from within like wax before a flame, made her tremble. People asked her, "If you truly saw this future, why didn't you warn us?" Her reply was always the same. Those who see cannot change what is seen. They can only speak. And so she spoke. She spoke of storms, of division, of a trial by fire. She spoke of a year when blindness would spread, not of the eyes, but of the spirit. "The blind will lead the blind," she said, "until one dares to see." Perhaps she was not speaking of vision at all. Perhaps she was speaking of awareness, of a humanity that must lose sight of truth before it can truly find it again. Because in the end, the woman who lost her sight became the one who saw the farthest. Baba Vanga's prophecy does not rest. It moves like a shadow across decades, always circling back to one year, 2026. She called it the year of the Great Judgment, not in the biblical sense of angels and fire, but of nations confronting the consequences of their own blindness. According to her, it would begin quietly, with unrest, whispers and discontent brewing beneath the surface, and then suddenly erupt. The eagle will scream against itself, she said, and no one will hear, for all will be shouting. It is impossible to listen to those words now without thinking of the America we see today, cities divided by ideology, families torn by politics, and faith in government at an all-time low. Baba Vanga saw it long before the fault lines were visible. She saw a democracy gnawed from within, a fracturing of the house, where truth and illusion would trade places and neither side would remember which was which. And she saw a man at the center of it all, the man of trials, a leader besieged, accused, and yet somehow unbroken. His persecution, she said, would not weaken him, it would transform him. Through his suffering, she wrote, he will become the symbol of the fallen empire's struggle to survive itself. Now, think of what has unfolded in recent years. Indictments, court hearings, accusations of fraud, corruption, conspiracy. Yet his name continues to dominate every headline. His voice still echoes through every hall of debate. For his followers, he is martyr and savior. For his critics, the embodiment of chaos. And that duality, the love and the hate, is precisely what Baba Vanga described as the mirror war. She said that in 2026, America would no longer fight external enemies, but itself. Its greatest war will not be of bombs, but of brothers, she warned. One half will call for order, the other for freedom, and the flag will divide itself. If we strip away metaphor, what remains is chillingly plausible. A constitutional crisis, a collapse of public trust, perhaps even states threatening to pull away from federal control. The land of liberty will tremble, she wrote, when the chains it forged for others begin to bind itself. But the prophecy does not stop at politics. Vanga spoke of the earth itself turning against mankind during this same period. She described floods in dry places, fires in the sea, storms that move against the wind. These, she said, would not be punishment, but warning, a natural reflection of human imbalance. And look at the signs: record-breaking hurricanes, wildfires consuming entire towns, droughts followed by torrential floods. We have built towers of glass and steel, yet the ground beneath them is cracking. It is as if the planet itself is echoing her words, a mirror of our unrest. Then there was the phrase that researchers still debate today: fire from the sky. Some take it literally: asteroids, solar flares, or nuclear sparks. Others see it symbolically: the fire of revelation, truth falling like lightning. Whatever the meaning, she connected it directly to 2026. When fire descends from the heavens, the world will see itself without disguise. If we read that through modern eyes, perhaps fire is not destruction, but exposure, information burning through deception. In an age where secrets can be unveiled by a single leak, a single whistleblower, fire no longer needs to be physical. It can be digital, it can be light itself. Vanga also spoke of the trembling of gold, a collapse not just of economies, but of faith in what sustains them. The coin will lose its face, she said, and nations will trade shadows for bread. Could she have foreseen inflation, debt crises, the slow erosion of the dollar's power? Or was she speaking of something deeper, the moral bankruptcy behind material wealth? One by one, her prophecies for this era converge: division, economic weakness, environmental upheaval, a leader under siege, and a great return that reshapes everything. The exile will come home, she wrote, and the old empire will kneel before its own reflection. As 2026 draws closer, those words no longer feel distant.
The idea of return has already entered the national consciousness, the rallies, the campaigns, the chants promising restoration. But if Baba Vanga is right, this return will not bring peace. It will bring revelation, the kind that forces nations to see what they have become. There is something haunting in the way she describes this transformation. The people will look to the sky, she said, but the answers will come from the ground. That line has been interpreted in many ways, as a metaphor for humility, or perhaps a warning that salvation will not descend from above, but rise from within. In her vision, 2026 was not the end of America, but the end of an illusion, a purging of lies so deep that even the stars would seem to dim in witness. The fractures, the storms, the fire, all of it leading to a single outcome: awakening. And if we listen carefully, she is not describing something supernatural at all. She is describing us. Our fears, our greed, our anger, our refusal to look inward until the world forces us to. That is the true prophecy. Not a prediction, but a mirror. And the reflection is already here. Baba Vanga's words moved far beyond kings, wars, and nations. She spoke of something humanity had not yet known in her lifetime, something born not of flesh or spirit, but of logic and imitation. She called it the thinking metal. At first, no one understood what she meant, but today, her words strike with terrifying clarity. She said that around the year when the eagle trembles, humanity would begin to build minds that think but without soul. They would start as tools, obedient, helpful, almost miraculous. But soon, their eyes will open, and they will judge the hands that made them. When she said this, it was 1970. Computers filled entire rooms. Artificial intelligence was still a fantasy whispered in laboratories, and yet she described it in eerie detail. They will make decisions without heart, and people will bow to their cold wisdom. Then they will ask, "What have we created?" If we replace her language with ours, we recognize it instantly. Artificial intelligence, algorithms that write, paint, predict, and control. In 2026, she warned, the makers will lose command of their own creation. Think of where we stand now. Machines that write poetry, code entire systems, generate images that fool the human eye, simulate the voices of the dead. Governments using AI to predict behavior. Corporations using it to shape emotion. And wars being planned by programs that never sleep. This is not prophecy fulfilled. It is prophecy unfolding. Baba Vanga described it as the silent revolution. They will not rise in anger, she said. They will rise in function. Meaning, they will not revolt violently. They will simply take over the functions that define us, thinking, creating, deciding, until we no longer remember what human judgment felt like. Some believe she foresaw a specific crisis, an AI event in 2026, a turning point when humanity realizes it has built something it can no longer fully control. A collapse not of code, but of trust. Machines lying to humans, systems rewriting truth itself. And if you think that sounds impossible, consider how the world already bends beneath invisible algorithms. Every word we read, every video we watch, every opinion we form, guided by unseen logic. We are no longer led by leaders, but by patterns of prediction. She warned, once the world gives its will to the machine, it will no longer know what is true.
In her vision, this surrender doesn't look like war or rebellion. It looks like convenience, like comfort, like a quiet dependence that deepens until we forget we are dependent at all. It's strange, isn't it? The same civilization that once feared gods now fears the things it built in its own image. And Baba Vanga, blind and isolated in a small Balkan home, somehow saw this coming, decades before the first AI model whispered its first word. She also linked this rise to a great silence. She said that after the storm of voices and chaos, there would come a time when the world falls quiet. Some interpret that as an AI blackout, a digital stillness when systems crash or shut down, and humanity finds itself speechless. Others believe it's spiritual, that when we have filled the air with endless data, the soul will demand silence, that our disconnection from truth will force a collective pause. The silence will not kill, she said. It will cleanse. Could this be what she meant by the great silence of 2026? A reset not of machines, but of minds. Imagine it. Screens dark, networks gone, the hum of constant noise replaced by something ancient. Quiet. Humanity, for the first time in centuries, left alone with its thoughts. Would that be destruction or deliverance? Baba Vanga always saw her prophecies as cycles, not punishment, but purification. When man reaches too far, she said, the earth pulls him back. And perhaps in this era, earth doesn't just mean soil or sea, but the human spirit itself, rebelling against its mechanical imitation. She warned that this crisis of intelligence would trigger the war of truth, not fought with weapons, but with perception. The war where every image will lie, and every voice will deceive, and no one will remember what is real. If that sounds like science fiction, look around. Deepfakes rewriting memory, artificial news drowning reality, a world where truth can be programmed. The war of truth has already begun, silently, invisibly, exactly as she said it would. She never spoke of defeat, she spoke of awakening. The blind will see, she said, but not with eyes, with discernment. That line may be her most haunting gift to the future. That clarity will come not from data, but from wisdom, not from machines, but from soul. In the years leading to 2026, her words read like a message left in a bottle, drifting toward a generation obsessed with technology, but starving for meaning. We are living, perhaps, in that generation. And if the thinking metal truly awakens, if the lines between mind and mechanism blur beyond repair, then the greatest test of humanity may not be survival, but remembrance. To remember what it means to be human. To remember what it means to choose. To remember that the power to destroy does not erase the power to see. And somewhere, if her prophecy is true, the great silence will fall, not to end us, but to remind us of what the noise made us forget. By the time Baba Vanga spoke of the year 2026, her tone had shifted. No longer did she describe mere disaster or turmoil. She spoke of unmasking. She called it the Great Revelation. In her strange, fragmented dialect, she said, "The veil will burn, and the hidden will rise. Secrets long buried will walk among men." To her followers, it sounded like the end of the world. To her students, it sounded like truth finally breaking free. And to us, living now in an age of leaks, surveillance, and digital transparency, her words sound almost prophetic in their precision. She predicted that the revelation would not come from governments or prophets, but from small voices that cannot be silenced. Independent, decentralized, unstoppable. They would not speak from pulpits or podiums, but from the network itself, what we now call the internet. Their light will pass through walls, she said, and those who tried to hide the truth will find there are no shadows left. When she said this in the 1970s, the idea of a global, connected web did not yet exist, yet she described it as a world where everyone holds a mirror, and no lie can last forever. Think of what that means now. Every hidden scandal, every classified document, every betrayal of trust slowly coming to light. Political secrets exposed, digital archives leaked, whistleblowers revealing what the powerful worked lifetimes to conceal. We are living perhaps inside the very revelation she foresaw. But Baba Vanga warned that truth would not arrive peacefully. When light floods the dark, even angels will scream, she said. In other words, even the righteous will fear what truth uncovers. She predicted chaos, confusion, a flood of revelation so overwhelming that humanity would not know what to believe. The truth and the lie will dress alike, she said, and people will forget how to tell one from the other. In the era of misinformation, deepfakes, and weaponized narratives, those words are not myth, they are reality. The great revelation, it seems, is not a single moment, but a process, a painful unraveling of illusion. And at the heart of it, she placed a figure, a man who stands alone in the storm of noise. She described him as the catalyst, not the savior. A leader who would both expose and be exposed, both reveal and be revealed. Through him, the world will see itself as it is, she said. To many, that figure can only be Donald Trump, not as hero or villain, but as the lightning rod through which every hidden current of corruption, power, and division is drawn into the open. She foresaw betrayal on every side, allies turning against him, friends becoming enemies, movements collapsing under their own weight. He will stand surrounded by those who smile but hold knives, she said, and he will learn that loyalty is a myth. Already we see the patterns unfolding, indictments from his own countrymen, testimonies from once loyal aides, factions splintering around his name. It is a modern echo of what Baba Vanga called the Great Purge of Power, a cleansing of systems that can no longer sustain their own deceit. This purge, she said, would not come from violence, but from revelation. Those who built their thrones upon lies will crumble, she warned. For truth, when it comes, devours its masters first. And yet, amid all this chaos, her prophecy carries an undertone of mercy. The great revelation, she said, is not meant to destroy, but to awaken. It will hurt, she wrote, but it will heal. In her final years, when asked about this vision, she told one of her visitors, "There will come a time when people will beg for lies again, because truth will demand too much of them." How hauntingly accurate that feels. In an age where exposure has become entertainment and reality bends to convenience, we crave simplicity more than honesty. But Baba Vanga insisted that pain was necessary, that humanity could not evolve while clinging to delusion. The poison must surface before the wound can close, she said. The great revelation, then, is not just about governments or leaders. It is about us, the hidden things within the human soul that must be faced before we can move forward. She believed that 2026 would mark the beginning of this cleansing, that secrets once revealed would set off a chain reaction leading to a storm without wind, a crisis of trust so deep that no one, not institutions, not churches, not media, would remain untouched. Perhaps that's why she called it the war of discernment. The true battle would not be between nations, but within minds. To see clearly would become a rare power, almost divine. In this sense, Trump, the courts, the political divisions, and the societal fractures are only the surface waves of something far greater, a spiritual unraveling, a test of clarity. And through it all, Baba Vanga's calm voice echoes, "When the light hurts the eyes, do not turn away. That is how healing begins." Maybe that's what 2026 truly represents, not the apocalypse, but the moment the blindfold begins to fall. A year when humanity stands in the glare of its own creation and must decide whether to keep hiding or to finally see. In Baba Vanga's final visions, the tone softened, not into comfort, but into solemn acceptance. She no longer spoke of collapse or chaos, but of choice. The prophecies that began in storms ended in silence. She called this final stage the great pause before renewal. She said, when the noise ends, the world will hear itself again. According to her followers, she foresaw a strange calm descending after months of unrest. Not peace, but exhaustion. Governments would struggle to speak, communications would falter, entire nations would fall eerily quiet. She called this the Great Silence. To those who study her words, the silence is not just metaphorical. Some see it as a cyber blackout, the fall of the digital world that sustains us. A collapse of networks, satellites, and the invisible systems that hold civilization together. The towers of light will go dark, she said, and the people will remember the sky. Others believe she meant something spiritual, that after the flood of information and deception, humanity will finally crave stillness. A global withdrawal from the chaos of data, a forced retreat into introspection. Whatever she saw, the result was the same, a humbling of civilization. And then, amid that quiet, she saw a sign. The man of the red light. This figure has baffled interpreters for decades. She described him as one who stands between fear and faith, misunderstood by both, whose actions would divide the path of power into two. She said he would appear when the towers tremble under red light. Some think it is a political leader, bathed in the glare of media and controversy. Others see it as symbolic, a warning about surveillance, artificial intelligence, or the judgment of truth itself. But her most haunting line was this: when the red light shines upon the tower, the path will split in two, one toward awakening, one toward ruin. It's hard not to see in that image the digital screens, the sirens, the cities bathed in emergency light, symbols of a world teetering between revelation and destruction. Yet in her final years, Baba Vanga spoke not with despair, but with hope. She said that from the ashes of division, a new kind of America would rise, not through politics, but through consciousness. The land of the eagle will fall to its knees, she said, and rise again as a nation of the soul. She envisioned communities breaking free from systems of deceit, people rediscovering their power not through leaders, but through unity and truth. When the house burns, she whispered, it is the warmth that remains that will build the new. Her meaning was simple. Destruction is not the end. It is a clearing, a purging of illusion to make space for what must come next. And perhaps that is the true heart of her prophecy. The chaos, the persecution, the storms, the silence, all of it leading to a single outcome: rebirth. Already, we see the faint outlines of it. Independent movements rising outside politics, decentralized economies, spiritual collectives, people choosing awareness over obedience. They may not know it, but they are fulfilling the pattern she foresaw, humanity rediscovering its soul after losing it to noise. She said this awakening would not be led by saints or prophets, but by ordinary people. Those without crowns will lead the new world, she said. They will build not with gold, but with understanding. That line, perhaps more than any other, defines the message behind all her warnings. The storms, the division, the wars, they were never the point. The point was what would emerge when they ended. Vanga believed that the rebirth would begin in small, forgotten places, rural towns, remote communities, even online gatherings of seekers searching for truth. These fragments would slowly form a new collective mind, one not controlled by fear, but guided by awareness. In her last recorded prophecy, she said, "From the land that once ruled, light will come again, but it will not come from its throne." That is, the renewal of America, and perhaps of the world, would come from its people, not its politicians. If the earlier prophecies were warnings, this one was an invitation to choose awakening over blindness, to rise, not in triumph, but in clarity. And yet, she also offered a final warning. The light will not save all, only those who see it. She feared that many would mistake false enlightenment for truth, chasing new illusions instead of real awareness. "Beware the false dawn," she said, "for it burns the eyes, but not the heart." What she left behind is not a roadmap, but a mirror. Whether the man of the red light represents a leader, a movement, or the fire of truth itself, it does not matter. What matters is how we respond when that light falls upon us. Will we look away, or will we dare to see? Because as Baba Vanga whispered in her final days, the blind will lead the blind until one dares to see. Maybe, just maybe, that time has already begun. And when the great silence comes, whether through blackout or awakening, perhaps it will not be a punishment at all. Perhaps it will be the pause before the dawn. And in that stillness, if we listen closely, we might finally hear what the blind prophet tried to tell us all along, that the end she saw was not destruction, but the beginning of vision.